To fill or not to fill? That's the question. I'm Lake, the Motor Oil Geek. Let's go to the dyno to find the answer. Oil filters. To fill or not to fill?
You know, we've spent so much time over the years actually talking about just about everything there is to know about oil filters. But you came up with an interesting question, and the internet did a couple of days ago. I'm thinking, wait a minute, something just doesn't sound right here, Lake.
It's pretty crazy, Don, that we did this video recently where I did an oil change on my daughter's brand new 2023 Toyota Corolla. And we did it, early on because the factory says go 10,000 miles. We're never going 10,000 miles.
Yeah, no.
We know there's too much oil. All right, so we'll leave a link in the video description below. That way, if you haven't watched that video, you can go watch it.
Yeah.
But like you said, in that comment section on that video, we were being told that we did it wrong. I did the oil change wrong because I poured oil in the filter before I installed it.
Tell me this on the phone. I'm like, what? Wait, was time out here? What were they thinking, Lake?
So I actually went and Googled it, right?
Yeah.
Should you pre-fill an oil filter? I was shocked by the number of people that said you should not fill the oil filter.
But not just the number of people, but the couple of reasons why they thought not.
So the primary reason that people said you shouldn't pre-fill an oil filter is that the oil that you're putting into the filter hasn't been filtered. It's dirty, essentially.
Oh my gosh. No. And
right.
the reason that we know this is because after all the testing that we've done over the years, and it's been a lot of years, how many times have you tested the oil that came right out of the bottle?
We have several times. Fortunately for you, we actually have our little dyno mule engine, and we've got some testing to do. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to not just give you our opinion, because people have all kinds of opinions.
Right, exactly.
We're going to give you some data. We're going to do some real science here.
As we've done in the past, we're not just going to explain and tell you guys what's going on. We're going to prove it.
We're going to show you. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some fresh oil right out of the drum, and we're actually going to send it off to the lab and have it analyzed, because at Speed Diagnostics, we can do what's called a particle count. We can count the number of particles. So basically, how dirty is that fresh oil?
What is in there that shouldn't supposed to be there?
Right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put that oil in this engine, and we're just going to prime the engine so that the oil has gone through the filter, and then we're going to take a sample of the oil right out of the oil.
Without starting the engine.
Right.
We're going to see how long it actually takes
to prime the engine without oil.
Without putting oil in the engine, because since the engine's not actually running, we're not going to do any damage by doing that. We're actually going to pre-lube the engine.
Yep. So we'll share you the results at the end of this video of what that oil was, how clean it was out of the drum, and then out of the engine. But before we do that, I got to tell you something.
What's that like?
So, I am a certified lubrication specialist. Make fun of it if you want to.
It's called a tribologist.
Yeah, tribologist. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
I didn't get it off the internet.
I didn't really know what that was until I met you.
Yeah. Within our group, within the lubrication engineering realm, we can kind of say there's 4 R's of proper lubrication.
So important.
You got to have the right oil, which means the right viscosity and the right additive package for the application. It's got to be at the right place at the right time and the right amount.
Correct.
The problem I have, theoretically, with what people have said about not pre-filling the filter is that by
You're violating one of those at least.
Yeah, we're not getting enough oil to the right place at the right time.
Correct.
That's the problem. We've basically compromised 3 of the 4 R's.
Yeah.
We got the right oil, but if we're not getting it to the engine, so we're going to prove this out, right? We're going to put it to the test.
Yep.
Here's what we're going to do. Don's going to take this filter, we're going to put it on the engine, and no oil in it. And then we're going to pre-lube it like he said. We're going to measure the time. We're going to show you on this gauge, you're going to see how long does it take for it to actually reach pressure. Because until there's pressure, there's no restriction to flow. right? The pump's going to make flow, but it's not going to show you how much oil pressure there is until it hits the gauge.
Correct.
So we want to see.
It's not a huge amount of time. It's not going to be a huge amount of time.
Want to
There's not a bunch of oil lines and stuff on here, but it's not going to be huge. But it is going to be quite different than if you were to fill the filter up first.
Right. So what we're going to do, we're going to run it, prime it, but then after we've actually primed it,
and taking our oil sample,
taking the oil sample, we're going to let the engine sit for a while, let all that oil drain back down and compress it. Then we're actually just going to do it again, and you're going to be able to see how long does it take from the time we begin to turn the engine. How long does it take to get oil pressure? The longer it takes to get oil pressure, the longer the engine's moving without lubrication.
It's kind of easy to conceptualize if you think about it. So, yes, is there some oil left on when you shut the engine off?
Absolutely.
Is there oil between the rod bearing and the crankshaft? Absolutely. There's going to be a little bit there. But what happens is when you start that engine and you're just a couple of seconds even without oil pressure, what happens is that film that's actually supposed to be between the rod bearing and the crankshaft is so thin that you will actually get the metal of the bearing touching the metal of the crankshaft. Now, all you guys that have taken race motors apart, before, you've seen the little scratches and stuff that are on the bearing sometimes, even though the bearing's still good. Most of that comes from the first 4 or 5 seconds when you're cranking the engine over.
I haven't told you the whole truth yet. So I already know what's going to happen.
We do.
Yeah. The reason why, and I actually have the data to back it up.
Yeah.
And the data is actually hidden in that previous video when everyone was roasting me for putting oil in the filter. I showed the results from my Porsche engine when we actually were breaking it in and we did that early oil change and all that. When I went through that, and again, that link's in the video description below, I showed the amount of bearing wear that occurred in that engine. And I actually mentioned that on those engines, that it's really hard to prime those engines because you can't dyno them. They have to be in the car for them to run. It's an ECU thing. Don't worry about it.
Sometimes it's really hard to do on some engines, yes.
And it's a cartridge style filter. So it's not a canister. So it's really difficult to pre-fill the filter,
get the system
and to get it primed.
Yes.
So guess what? When we actually ran that engine that first 138 miles, there was copper, tin, and lead. There was bearing material. And
which you can tell by not even taking it apart, just by doing the oil analysis.
Right. The oil analysis showed us that. And then on the second oil change, it was still there. A slightly lower level, but it was still there. Because the first one, dry start.
Yeah.
The second time, but that residual oil was there, so it was lower.
Yep.
What I didn't mention in the video, which is why I said I was lying a little bit, it bothered me, Don, when I saw those first two results. And I'm like, man, this is bugging me that I'm not pre-filling the filter, put it on. I don't care that it's a cartridge. I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to put the cartridge on, and I'm going to fill the canister with some oil anyway. And guess what happened?
Just because you did whatever you could to get
right oil, right place, right time, right amount.
What happened?
4 R's never failed.
What happened, Lake?
I'm pretty sure that third one, those bearing materials were gone. Because it is proper lubrication, right oil, right place, right time, right amount.
So important.
If you don't pre-fill the filter, you are compromising that last 3 of the 4.
Absolutely.
So, enough of us talking about it.
Let's show you.
One thing that we didn't touch on that we should mention is that while the oil, however clean it is, coming out of your container, if you pour it through a dirty funnel, well, okay, then that's a problem.
Yeah.
Don't store your funnel next to the grinding bench, okay?
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah.
Like at home, I've got a bucket that I put my funnel in. I'll stick the funnel in there, and I'll put a rag on top and on bottom for storage for the next time to make sure that it stays clean.
Right, yeah. So clean funnel, that way you're not making the oil dirty while you're putting it in. That's kind of important.
Correct, very important.
So let's go ahead and put some oil in the engine and get started.
Here we go. Okay, so now we've just gotten done with cranking the oil pressure over with an empty filter, and we've recorded on the video actually how long it takes. And it was it was probably, 4 or 5 seconds. I mean, it was about what we figured it would be. So, but now the system is full. So watch the gauge now and watch what happens as soon as I start the drill. That's the difference between an empty oil filter and one that's already had oil in it. Which one do you think the bearings are going to like better?
So now we've put oil in the engine, we've primed it, we've circulated that engine oil through the oil filter. We're now going to take a sample of that oil out of the engine after it's been filtered by the filter. So what happens? Let a little bit drain first. All right. And we're going to be able to compare how clean is this sample compared to how clean was the oil out of the drum. So we have our two samples. Out of the drum, out of the engine, we'll send them into the lab. In about a week, we'll have the results. But through the magic of editing, you're going to have them right now.
So now we've actually got data right here.
Right.
We've talked about this. We talked about this a little while ago. We've actually got the proof.
So we got the results back from the lab, and what we do is call it a particle count. So you basically can do is you can see in the oil. So you flow the oil across this eye, and it can see and count the number of particles in the oil.
Little tiny particles.
Yep, so it's a cleanliness. It's actually the ISO cleanliness test is what we ran. We ran it from the sample out of the drum and the sample out of the engine before we ran the engine.
Right.
And so the higher the number, the dirtier the oil is.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And they break it down into 3 numbers. The first number is essentially particles smaller than 4 micron. Then the next one is particles smaller than 6 micron. Then the last one is the particles larger than 14 microns.
Right.
So 4, 6, 14. So the ISO number for the oil out of the drum was a 16, 15, 12. Okay? The sample that came out of the engine was a 19, 18, 15.
Which basically means that the oil that came out of the engine before it ran actually had more particles in it than the oil that we put into the engine.
Yes. The oil we put in the filter was cleaner than the oil that came out of the engine.
So that is going to debunk a couple of ideas that we've seen floating around on the internet that the oil out of the can is dirty.
No.
If the oil that comes out of your can is dirty, you need to find a different can.
Yeah, a different oil supplier.
A different supplier, yeah.
I know from my time when I was at Driven Racing Oil, the old Joe Gibbs oil, all of the oil that came out of the blend tank before it went to packaging went through a filter. Actually, a very small filter, which is why that oil is cleaner when it comes out of the container than it did coming out of the engine.
Correct.
Now, here's the other fun little tidbit, right? So that difference between the 12 and the 15, the number of particles larger than 14 microns out of the bottle was only 52. The number of particles that came larger than 14 that came out of the engine
that hadn't been run yet.
Right. 331.
That's a huge difference right there.
Yeah. So again, myth debunked.
Yep.
Please, you saw how long it took to get oil pressure when you didn't fill the oil filter. It's a smart idea to pre-fill your oil filter with nice clean oil straight from the bottle. If you want to pour it through a paint strainer to make yourself feel better,
knock yourself out.
Go right ahead.
Do you need to? Absolutely not, because that oil that's coming out of the bottle, as we proved, is the cleanest that oil is going to be.
Yeah, so that's the data to debunk the myths.
Yep.
Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.